Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the Friday seminar from Manica Digital. It's myself this morning talking on how to use LinkedIn to promote your business. What's going to happen now is while we wait for a few more people to join us, we're going to do a couple of polls. But please feel, hello Nigel from the diary, please write a message on the right-hand side so we know that you're here. And also, as we are doing LinkedIn, it will be great if you could put your LinkedIn details. So if somebody notices somebody they want to connect to, they can go and copy it from the actual chat that's happening on the right-hand side. Okay, so I'm going to start the first poll. Let me get that one over to you. So what happens is I'm going to read the question out and you've got a choice of answers. I think this one you can only answer one answer. Because it doesn't show up on the recording, I have to read out the questions and the answers. So the first question is, how often do you use or post on LinkedIn, both personally or for your business? So the first answer is, I use and post regularly on my personal and business profile, probably more than 3 times a week. I use and post regularly on my personal profile, but only sporadically on my business profile. I sporadically post on both profiles, probably once a week. I rarely use either, once per month, and I'm just starting out. So at the moment, interestingly, it's a bit of a three-way race between the people that are using or both very regularly. That's 28% at the moment. Sporadically on both, which is perhaps once a week, which is about 30%. And then I rarely use them, so once a month. So we've got a bit of a mixed audience today, which is fine because I'm going to be covering a huge amount of different stuff. So thank you for that one. I'll do the next poll, which is queuing ready to go. So the second poll is, have you used any of the paid features on LinkedIn? And you can answer more than one on this one because sometimes you might be doing more than one thing. So my first answer is no, I did not understand the benefits of Sales Navigator or LinkedIn ads. No, I thought it was too expensive or I did not have the budget. I have tried Sales Navigator in the past. I have tried LinkedIn ads in the past. I'm currently using Sales Navigator. I'm currently using LinkedIn ads for my business. And because I know we get quite a lot of agencies in the room, I'm also added, I'm currently using LinkedIn ads for someone else's business. So quite a few choices there. And hopefully one or two of those will cover you. Now, the most interesting thing I didn't expect is that nearly half of you have not actually used Sales Navigator or LinkedIn ads before, which is, nearly 50%. So I am going to explain the benefits of those to you. And then the next most popular is, no, I thought it was too expensive or I didn't have the budget. You are right. Some of LinkedIn is incredibly expensive. However, if you use certain ad objectives or you play around with different combinations of campaigns, actually you can get some very good results. And of course, B2B services and lead generation tends to have very high values. So, we would expect in Google to be paying 50 to 150 anyway per lead. So, it's easy. You can easily beat that. Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's enough of the polls. Let me just see if we've got most of the people in the room now. Yeah, we've got a good 60 odd people. We're expecting a few more to attend, and hopefully they'll join us in a minute. So what am I going to cover today? So the first thing I'm going to cover is a little bit about me. So for the people that haven't met me before, I came to Leicester over 40 years ago to do biology. I currently live in lockdown Leicester. That's a terrible name, but I'd rather remember the days when we were partying and celebrating the Premier League. This is our office on the left-hand side and some of the team at the bottom. There's actually 20 of us, and we work flexi time from the office, and we will be going forward as well. It's an old converted pub, and we've got training rooms, and we run monthly seminars and things there. In the middle, you can see the Drum Awards, which we won last year for some work we did on tracking leads through to Salesforce, and then bring that data back into Google Ads. That was for Switch My Business. We actually won the Grand Prix for that, as well as 2 others. And then you've got my family. I'm a bit of a rocker, a bit of Led Zeppelin fan. And I'm also a Formula One fan. It's great to see that that's back. Unfortunately, in the lockdown, I'm not seeing much of the grandkids, but you'll also notice big photographs of them behind me. A little bit about Annika. We work with about 40 clients. It's a mix of B2B and B2C. Probably 60% are more these national brands like Palex and Experian, Domino Printers. Those are the big ones that we work with, AA labels. But we also have got a few great e-commerce clients like Dykeman Shoes, Watt Bike, Charles Bentley. So it's a bit of a mix of the type of work we do, and we tend to work with sort of quite high-tech brands where we're doing quite sophisticated campaigns, maybe multi-channel, that sort of thing. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today. As I said, there's quite a lot to cover. I've divided it into 4 sections to make it easier to talk about. So first of all, I'm going to be talking about profiles. That's your business profile, which is your business page. Push a little bit on your personal profile, but that was carried out, and Caroline actually did a whole talk on that last week. So if any of you want to refer back to that, you can go back to the website and see the previous recordings of all of our webinars. And just as another note for you guys, we do actually send out the video. It will go out in a couple of hours once it's been processed. So do expect to get the video sometime later on this afternoon. We're then going to be talking about popularity, and what I mean by that is growing your connections and followers. And this is a good use of Premium or Sales Navigator, which is the paid accounts. So if you really want to grow your connections, and you also want to find people to form relationships with, possibly to sell to at a later stage, then this is I've got some tricks on how to use Premium or Sales Navigator. You obviously need to grow your community before it's worth posting, although it is a bit of a sort of a synergistic relationship. But your organic posts are only seen by your connections, and if they comment or like on it or share it, their connections. So, of course, you know, the bigger your followers, the more connections you have, the more your reach that your posts will get out there. Unfortunately, because LinkedIn, particularly under the lockdown, there's so much more content. I think Caroline showed some data last week that the amount of content's almost doubled in the last 5 months. It's actually more difficult to get seen, and you'll notice if you compare posts from this year to last year, you won't get as many people actually see or views of your post as you probably had before. So there's quite a big difference between posting personally and posting as a company, and I will discuss that as well. The final section is promotion, and it's only an introduction to LinkedIn advertising. It's all about finding new audiences and generating leads. I have done a couple of presentations already, webinars already on LinkedIn. I did something on paid social for generating leads, and I also did an audience targeting. So if you go and have a look back at some of those, I've nicked a few slides from there, but there's quite a lot more that we can cover. And I think one of the actual social teams is going to do something a little bit more on in detail on actually setting up and running LinkedIn ads. Okay, so let's get going then. So just a little bit of an introduction. I'm not going to do all the slides on how it's grown and the number of people. You can get that, and I do include a resource actually from LinkedIn later on, which is really useful, and there's a really good link there. So that's a 2-hour webinar, which I think has got a little bit more detail than obviously I can squeeze in 40 minutes. So the first thing, of course, is that most of you will realize that LinkedIn can be used as a business tool, and it really has maybe 3 main purposes. First of all, to sort of expand your network and get your content out to a community of people that already know you. And then I think the major thing that we want to do is we want to get in front of new audiences and actually raise our awareness, but actually hopefully generate some leads. So I guess what we're really doing is looking at the different stages of the sales funnel and addressing different things by doing different things. The other thing I wanted to get across to people is that there's a massive difference between what happens on your personal profile and what happens on your business profile. And so I've used the 4Ps again to divide this up, and I've got the personal one at the top and business at the bottom. So if you look at your business account and your personal account and you look at your profile, so the first thing is your personal page is actually like your CV. And you'll keep that irrespective of where you work, and you'll go from one place to another. So this was very much what Caroline was talking about last week, whereas your business page is about the company, and it will be linked to all the people all your employees. So obviously when somebody starts working for you, you want them to link correctly to your business page so that somebody can go and check you out. And one issue often is that people don't use their business page or don't encourage their employees to go onto LinkedIn. And so they might actually have a reasonably sized business, but it actually looks like it's a lot smaller business because when they go and check you out on LinkedIn, there's actually hardly any employees on there. The next big difference is the popularity or the number of connections. And what you tend to find is it's actually really easy to grow your personal profile, but it's much more difficult to grow your business profile. So the number of followers and connections can be really different, and I'll show you that with mine in a minute. The other thing that you often find is that people will, as it was indicated by the poll, is people will post pretty regularly from their own personal profile, but actually the company or the business profile is less, it's often quite sparsely populated with posts. I mean, we struggle a little bit with this because we're so busy working on our clients' projects that we actually don't post as often as we should. And ideally, you want to be posting more than once a week, which is what we do. But you've also got to have something to talk about. So what tends to happen is if we get a blog that one of the team's written, then we will post that out both on our personal profiles, but also on the main business page. The final section is the promotion, and like most of the paid social accounts, including things like Facebook, you can't actually use ads on your own personal profile. You can only use it on the business profile. Now, this might be a bit of a surprise to you because you often see, individuals, thought leaders, celebrities with ads associated with their name. But what they've effectively done is they've cheated the system. So they've created a business page, but use their personal details and their picture instead of their logo to try and take advantage of the advertising. But most of the time, it's the company that's going to want to spend the money on the ads anyway. So that's where those ads sit. So if you just look at Ann Stanley versus Annika Digital, obviously I've been on LinkedIn longer than Annika Digital existed. So I think I've been on LinkedIn for about 13, 14 years now. So I've got quite a history of different jobs and things on there in my personal page. But Annika Digital, the original company was set up in 2007. So it's not been there for quite so long. And actually the business pages for features within LinkedIn have evolved significantly over the years. There used to be product and service pages, then there's showcase pages. So I quite like it now. It was a bit rubbish for a while, but it's got some quite nice functionality and some nice features now. Now, if you compare my connections, not my popularity by any means, and I hit my 10,000 connections. I went over 10,000 about a month ago. So this was a big milestone to reach 10,000 connections, but it has taken me over 10 years to do that, and it does grow quite exponentially. So the more connections you have, the more likely people are going to connect to you. And also, if you've got a lot of connections yourself, if you try and link to people, typically you get about 20 to 30% of them will connect to you, even if they don't know you. If they know you, obviously it's much higher than that. Now, if you compare that with Annika Digital, we've only just hit 1,000 followers. Now, one of the reasons for that is we've never proactively used the functionality within LinkedIn to go and get new followers. It's been very organic, very passive, and we've never spent any money advertising to grow our popularity or connections either. So you can see that there's much more to be done there. But this is also indicative of the amount of content you put out and also your brand. So the more well known you are, obviously that's going to grow much faster. The other thing is the amount of content. I would typically post about 3 or 5 things a week. It can be much more than that. It really depends how busy I am. The last 2 weeks have been absolutely manic, using new software, creating proposals, writing webinars. So I've actually been a bit rubbish, and I've only posted about 3 to 5 times, including sharing other people's content. Whereas Annika Digital probably, because some of our team are on furlough as well, the people that would normally be doing this aren't around, so it's much lower. And in fact, Jess has tried to pick this up while other people that would normally do it, have not been around. She's tried to keep this going for us. So thank you, Jess. And then obviously, Annika Digital isn't advertising at the moment. It will be at the end of the month. We've got a massive campaign that starts in a couple of weeks, which I'll tell you more about next week. But some of you are going to see us on the TV for the first time, which is really exciting. And we've got a massive social media campaign to go with that. So you're going to see a lot more of us. But at the moment, we're not doing advertising. We tend to do advertising in LinkedIn for specific events like Leicester Digital Conference. But I'll show you a couple of examples later on. Okay, this is the difference. I'm just going to go through each of these now. So this is the difference between my profile and the Annika profile. And I viewed this as a member, not as me. So you can see I've actually logged into one of our clients' accounts just to take a snapshot of it. You've got the big image, you've got the headshot, you've got the description, and then you've got all the other stuff that you can add. And this was the stuff that Caroline was talking about earlier on. Now, my colleague here is actually linked to me as a first degree connection, so she can message me. But if I wasn't a first degree connection, I wasn't already connected, then there will be a connect button here. Now, if you can compare that with the business page, you've got a very different layout, and I'm going to go into this in much more detail. But you've got the branding, we've got our awards at the top, we've got our logo, we've got a bit of description, and if you click on, you can see more. Then you've got a menu of options, which most of you might not have even noticed. And there's a huge amount of stuff that you can do here, either as a member or if you've got the admin section open. You can see the links to all the employees, which you can also see here in people. And you've got about and all the information about the actual company as well. Now, if I then go look at popularity, the way we find this is we go to my network, and on the left-hand side, you can see I've got my 10,100 plus connections, and then I've got all my connections on the right-hand side. There's a few other things here. I've got some contacts and teammates as well, and some pages that I'm involved with. I'm actually the admin for quite a few of our clients because of the way that LinkedIn currently sets up the ads. So I actually inadvertently ended up being responsible for quite a few other pages, but also I follow a few pages as well. If you compare that with the business page, I've highlighted here that we've got the 1,096 followers. So hopefully some of you will go and follow us later on. And Jess, it would be really useful if you could go and get our URL and put it in the chat, so a few people could go and follow us after the event, because obviously it would be very nice if we could gain a few followers from this. Okay, the next thing is the posts. Now, this is where the biggest difference arises, partly due to the fact that I've got 10 times more contacts, but also due to the fact that I'm posting things that are a little bit more interesting, a little bit more variety. They get big reach. So this one, are you offering flexible working? This was all about the fact that we're now going to be offering permanently a work from home and also a 4-day week or 5-day week option. And I got over 200, I think it was 250 engagements, likes and reactions to that. Quite a few comments, lots of interesting love on that one. I've also done a couple of polls. I've shared awards. I share the webinars. But what I notice is even though I've got 10,000 connections, quite a lot of these are only getting a couple of thousand. You know, that got 1,500 views. So the proportion of people that actually see my posts is significantly lower than they were maybe a year ago. But these are the ones that have had good interactions. Whereas if you go over to these ones, this is the company ones, you can see that there's a little bit more video going on here. This was the most popular one. This was Leicester Digital Live, which has our conference last October. We're going to be announcing the date of the new one in the next couple of weeks, which is it's going to be next year now. But I'll let Jess announce that when she's ready, and all the new speakers. But you can. This is also a link to a blog article that one of the teams has written. But you'll notice that the number of likes is much lower, the number of views is much lower. So the visibility that we get on the company pages is significantly lower than we get personally. So what we have to do is, if I'm doing something, I always mention. You can just about see it in this one. I will. This is the Friday webinars. I always mention Annika Digital. So by mentioning Annika Digital, that then ends up on the feed of the business page, and hopefully people, if they're interested, will click through and see what's going on. But without spending a lot more time on this and having the blog content to share, it really means that most people are only probably posting on the business page maybe once a week, which I think is about the minimum you can get away with. But ideally, you should really be looking to do something, either daily or every other day. However, it's quite time consuming, so you really need to get everything prepared in advance, or you're creative, like using Canva or whatever. Now, if you look at promotion, we aren't able to do that with the personal side. So I've gone over to the business profile, and what I've done is I've highlighted, and you can do this for your competitors as well, or any companies that you're trying to target. And if you go to the business page, on the menu on the left, you can see the ads section. So if you click on there, we're not actually running any ads at the moment, but I've just got some previous ads. So we were doing an event on chatbots, and also we were promoting the A10 marketing framework, which is actually the talk for next week. So if any of you is interested in doing market planning, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. But if I was doing ads, I will show you an example later that will appear in this block here. So it only has live ads at that particular time. And Facebook's got something similar. It's called the Facebook ad library. Okay, so let's go into a little bit more detail about developing your profile, and I have focused on the business profile because of the stuff that Caroline did last week. So first of all, let's have a look at your business page as if you were viewing it but as a member. So this is the same as if you went and looked at anybody else's page. The first thing you'll see is the bits that you can edit and the bits that are navigation. So when you actually come in as an admin, and you can see up here, you've got the ability top right to view as an admin or view as a member. The bits in blue take you somewhere, and the bits in red are the bits that you can actually edit. So you've got obviously your header image, your logo, the description, the company name, and then you've got the about us, you've got any videos that you might have loaded up. This is the navigation, which of course you can't change. You've got the visit your website, which again is always there. And then you've got the links to the employees that are linked to that account. Now you'll notice that I've got viewer in Sales Navigator. That's because I've got a Sales Navigator account. If you didn't have a Sales Navigator account, you wouldn't see that bit. Now, if I then go and look at some of these pages, so I've just brought the most obvious ones up. This is the About Us page. So this is an overview of Annika. This is a video. So this is the most recent video. So this was one that was been posted in an ad, which is the DMI courses, which are running in October. Then you've got people. So this is a much more interesting view of the people. It gives you an idea of where they live, where they've studied, the individual job titles, and images. And this is a lot of recruiters will use this, and it's also very good for people poaching your staff. Interestingly, you sometimes notice, I mean, I look at some of the other agencies, and I've noticed that sometimes you get people that maybe are freelancers. They will sort of illegally link themselves to your profile. So it is worth policing your profile to make sure you haven't got any hangers on, people that sort of claim to be part of your team that aren't. As it does look a bit weird if you've got people in India that say they work for you. Then this is some areas that I think are very, very useful when you're either researching customers or competitors. So I've did this way because this one takes up less room. So this is the ads section that I was talking. You basically go to the ads tab and then you can see. So I've used Cromwell, which is a big company that you notice when you drive in on the train into Leicester. Obviously they're really active at the moment because they can provide cleaning and PPE equipment. So you can see a couple of ads that they're running. But also, if I go to the Insights tab, now you only get this if you're on Sales Navigator. You get loads of history about the number of employees, whether it's going up and down, the job type, by their function, and their recent recruits. And this is going to be really important if you're thinking of either working with somebody or using them as a supplier, or if you are sort of just trying to suss out what else is happening in the marketplace. Now, obviously, a lot of people will shrink in the next few months. So if you're worried about a company, it might be a good place to actually search them out. But you only get this data once they employ 30 people because of the sort of confidentiality of it all. Excuse me. Now, if I then go on to your business profile admin view, you can sort of see some of the things that you can look at and play around with. So we can edit all of the top section. We can add content in the middle section. I'm going to cover the invite your connections to follow. You only see this if you're in admin mode. And depending on who the admin is, obviously I've got lots and lots of people that I'm connected to. So it's much better me doing this than say maybe Jess, who's only got maybe 500 connections. I'm not sure how many Jess has got, but it's obviously better for me to do it because I've got a lot more personal connections that I can invite to like or follow the Annika profile. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. Again, you can switch views. You also get some admin tools, and you've got this tab with a lot of extra information that you didn't get before. And the analytics tab actually has got some subsections, which I'll show you in a minute. So probably most of you don't even go to your business page, but you'll be surprised just how much data is there. So the first thing, of course, is that you can edit various elements of it. So you've got quite a lot of buttons and things and page information. So this is just the About Us section. And then also if you go to the admin tools, there's quite a lot of things that you can do here as well. You can post events and jobs and create showcase page. Personally, I don't think the showcase pages are that effective. I think it actually dilutes your message a little bit. They used to be more popular, but actually you have different followers on the showcase page, so it sort of dilutes the message a little bit. But for some of you, it may be really important. If you go to the contents tab, this is really useful. You would have heard Chris talking about this. This is quite a good functionality for getting ideas about what's popular. You can put various industries and terms in there and do searches and see what people are talking about and what's got lots of engagements. Then we've got the analytics tab. So this is divided into three. It's three drop downs: visitors, updates, and followers. So this is just the data for the last month for the Annika site. So you can see the metrics of how they come in. This is desktops and mobiles. You've also got them by industry or job titles, depending on which drop down you use. You've got the updates and then all your posts and what the metrics are for that. And then you've got your number of followers and who's actually followed you and when they followed you. So lots of really, really useful information. The only problem with a lot of this is that there's not a lot of facilities for downloading some of this stuff. You can download some and not others. So, a lot of the time, you've got to, in some cases, you've got to pay to get a lot of the extra information, especially when you're doing ads, for example. Here's the activity. So this is where you get your notifications if you go and look in the top of your black bar. So this is where people have shared you, where they've liked and commented on the stuff that you've been talking about. Popularity. So this is the connections part. Now I am going to cover a little bit on getting your connections interpersonally and also as a business. Caroline did cover this in more detail, but I think it's important because you've got to remember that people buy from people. So it's really important that you have those personal relationships as well as the business relationship. So we're not necessarily talking about your personal brand or trying to get a job here. We're talking about you connecting to people that that you might want to do business with, or you want to get your content in front of. So on the personal side, then if you actually do a search, you can see that you can search on different things. So it includes people, jobs, content, companies, schools, groups, and events. And really, what you're doing here is using the search functionality to try and find people. There are an advanced search functionality, but it's nowhere near as sophisticated as what I'm going to show you in Sales Navigator. And what you want to do is you want to identify the people that you want to get some search results with, the people that you want to connect to, and then you want to send them an invitation to connect. Add a note in, that's really important, and about 20 to 30% of people will connect to you. But if you do get a net connection, thank them, but don't go in with an instant kill sales message, because most people will completely and utterly obliterate you by unconnecting straight away. So it's really important that you try and form a relationship with them and give something away and be helpful, rather than just try and kill them with a sales message, because you'll just lose your connections that way. It does suggest people that you can connect with. This is often better done on your phone, because you can connect to a lot more people a lot quicker, and you don't tend to get blacklisted for spamming and trying to connect to too many people. The way the algorithm works is if you connect to a load of people and they all turn around and say ignore, 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 then you can be blocked for spamming. So you just need to be a bit more careful about that. And that's why it's often better to do on the phone. Excuse me. You can also link up with your teammates, and you see here I've got some invitations, people that have contacted me, and I've just got to accept them. Annoyingly, I did these slides just after I'd completely cleared this all out, and there was also quite a lot of invitation to connect to companies as well. So I didn't have an example to show you, but you will see that in here. You'll see an individual and it will say, would you like to connect to, so this would appear as Ann Stanley, would you like to connect to Alika Digital? And then you can ignore it or accept it. You can actually turn off that as well. If you don't want to get connection requests from companies or for events, you can ignore them. The other thing you can do, this is on the left-hand side of the menu, is you can add your personal details. If you put your email in here, this was just inquiries at, but obviously mine will be Anna. Then you can go through and link your Gmail account or your Outlook account, or if you click on more options, it does allow you to connect to other things. And then the other thing you can do is join relevant groups. So we've got the Leicester Digital Group. So if you want to go and join that, there's lots of other local groups, including things like the Digital Growth Programme from the Chamber. You know, we can see here direct and database marketing. So, you know, depending on what your interest is, you can search for groups and link to them. Groups aren't as powerful as they used to be, which is why I haven't mentioned them too much. But groups do allow you to send out an email to everybody that follows your group about once a week. So that is something that, you know, if you are thinking of setting up a group, there is quite a lot of extra functionality around groups, which I've not covered today. The other thing that we would normally be talking about is if we were all sitting in a seminar in the wonderful Leicester office, we would be able to use the nearby functionality. I think we've got a couple of people not showing the slides. They're back. Okay, that might be an internet connection. I usually get a signal issue at my end. I'm on fibre, so it tends to be at your end if the slides go, because I've now upgraded my internet to allow me to do the webinars from home. But if you do have any problem with the slides, you will be able to go back and look at the recording later. So what happens here is you go on your mobile phone, you go down to the networks, and then you can turn on your Bluetooth and activate Bluetooth, so it picks up all the connections in the room. Then that allows you to then hit the plus button and connect to people and send a connection request. This is brilliant. We do this at the conference, and you know, you can suddenly get an extra 200 connections all in one go. You can't use that virtually though, unfortunately. So that is a bit of a problem. But here's a few do's and don'ts about connecting personally. don't be too pushy. I don't tend to connect to people that are based in Asia. A lot of them will spam the hell out of you, but also there's some fake profiles there. And also, I do recommend connecting to people like recruiters. The reason is they've got thousands of contacts, and of course that allows you to see more people as well. So you can only see, if you haven't got a paid account, your first and second degree contacts. So the more people that you connect with, if you all connect to me, suddenly you're going to see all my 10,000 people, and then you've got the choice of connecting to them if you want to. And remember, about 20 to 30% will accept if they don't know you. It's obviously a lot higher if they do know who you are. Okay, I wanted to bring up an interesting subject. It'd be quite interesting to see if any of you have heard of automation software, LinkedIn automation software. A couple of comments would be good in the chat. This is a subject that most people don't talk about. And there's a load of Chrome extensions which you can use. There's some examples here on the left-hand side. Probably the most well-known of the LinkedIn automation software is called Dux Soup, D-U-X, Dux, and then Soup, which is a really weird name. And you can see I've done a couple of searches in Google and brought up the feature snippets. So what is automation software? It automates and simplifies your work on LinkedIn. This particular software is Octopus, and it basically allows you to automate the connections, requests, and the thank you responses. The one underneath is the risk with LinkedIn automation software is that it's almost certainly violates the LinkedIn terms of service, putting your account at risk of temporary or permanent suspension. But it doesn't deter companies from offering the software. So it's not illegal, but LinkedIn doesn't like it. And I think the issue really is that LinkedIn makes you do everything very manually. If you want to connect to people, you have to connect to them one at a time. So what the automation software, it tries to mimic you doing it manually. So it has about a maximum of 70 requests a day that you can make. If you request to connect to any more than that, then LinkedIn will obviously block the account. But the best software is paid for, usually sort of $25-ish a month. But you've got to be really careful that you use it sensibly. I will not recommend it to clients, even though I've used it myself. And the reason is that we can't obviously afford for clients to have their accounts to be blocked. But I think people should know that it exists, and that particularly the Chrome plugins, which I think are the most interesting ones. You should know that you can use them. And if you're in a sales role, this could make a massive difference to what you actually do on a day-to-day basis. But that's why nobody talks about it, because it's against the LinkedIn sort of terms and conditions and policies. However, what I suspect will happen is that as Microsoft now owns LinkedIn, and they're bringing in new features and functionalities all the time, and hopefully they will actually start to basically take over some of the functionality or mimic some of the functionality that this automation software provides. You also see it a lot in sort of funnel creation of funnels. If you go onto Facebook and start looking at sort of things like some of the funnel software that's out there, you'll suddenly be inundated with loads and loads of people telling you how to do this stuff. Anyway, I think that's enough on that one, because it is a bit of what I would call grey hat. It's not something that we necessarily recommend to everybody, but you should at least be aware of what it is. Okay, so how do you increase your business page then? So this is, LinkedIn does provide some tools to do this now. But if you think about it logically, why the hell would anybody actually bother to follow your page? Well, it really is these factors on the left-hand side. It's going to be the strength of your brand. So it's somebody that they really respect or like or are interested in. So, you could follow Leicester City Football Club, or you could follow Next or Marks and Sparks, or you could follow a piece of software that you use every day like Salesforce, because actually it's really valuable to you. Then you've got the strength of the content. So for example, this is where suppliers and agencies come in. So if you like what we're sharing every week, then you might decide, well, actually I'm going to follow it because it's going to appear in my feed. You can encourage people to link to follow you as well. So this might be a link from your website, your email, etc. So this is really trying to say, hey, come on, follow me, like we've done today in a way. We're wonderful, or we've got something useful to share. Please follow us, and we really appreciate it. Because you follow us, we're going to give you lots of useful stuff. You can physically ask them, which is on the right, and you can also pay. So you can actually use engagement ads to actually encourage people to follow you, which I'm not really covered today, but it is one of the ad objectives. So when you're in your admin section, this was on the bottom right, and you've got 100 credits to actually invite people to connect to you, and you get 100 credits each month. And what you do is you tick the boxes and then send. And if somebody actually follows you back, then that credit's returned. So the idea is that the more people respond, the less credits you use up. Now, although I got 10,000 connections, I actually found it quite difficult to choose people that I thought, hey, yeah, these are going to they're going to want to follow me. I know them pretty well, because I've got, 10,000 people's irrelevant in a way. There's probably only 500 people that I actually know, who I've met or spoken to on the phone. So you need to choose the people that are most likely to connect to you. And of course, every month this restarts. So I do recommend you do this. I haven't got any stats on what the conversion rate's like, but I'm guessing it's going to be quite low. I normally get these in my connection requests, and I pretty much ignore them unless unless it's a brand I recognise. Anyway, that's definitely worth doing, and it will be a good way of growing your business profile followers. Okay, so I want to just talk for a little bit about LinkedIn Premium and Sales Navigator. So these are the paid accounts. I've actually got one of them. I've got the middle one, which is Sales Navigator. It's all in dollars, but this one cost me about £72 a month. I really should buy it annually because I've had it for ages now. And the main reason for buying it is because it's got some very, very advanced search functionality. It's a bit more like CRM, so you can save lists, etc. And you can make connection requests. You can save leads, which does limit you. So you have to sort of save your lists rather than your leads. And also you can message people that aren't connections. So say you're really struggling to connect to somebody, you can message 20 a month. Now, there are different versions. This one doesn't have quite the same functionality, but you could try that one first. It's not a lot difference in cost, but you can also get a 3 months trial on this. So I recommend you do the trial first. You'll see it in the top right. And then if you like it, then you can pay for it. Another thing you can do is buy it for a month and just do all the lists and everything you need. And then, you've done all your research, and then you can then sort of make connections. But I do think that it's the sort of thing that you have to use on a regular basis. There is a comparison table, which I've provided a link for there as well. Okay, so this is the comparison table. I'm not going to go through this in any detail. It gives you an idea of the differences in the number of messages, some of the functionality, and also the number of leads. So what does it look like? Well, the first thing is you need to know how to get to it. Normally when I teach this slide builds. So sorry, it's all in one slide. But effectively, you go to Sales Navigator top right once you've got an account, and then it will open all of this stuff here. This will disappear. And what you've got is a central panel, which is another feed, but they're feeds from the companies and leads that you've saved within Sales Navigator. So this will be different from what you see in your main LinkedIn account, and it will include people that you're not connected to that you've actually added in. So this is why it's really good to follow people that are targets and actually see what they're posting about. You've got the various menus, which I'll show you in a little bit more detail, but the main thing is you've got the main search functionality. I just want to explain some of the nomenclature here for you. So a saved account is a company, a lead is an individual, a list, this is a list of leads or accounts that you've created. You can also save searches, you can tag individuals, and then you can also message or in-mail people. It used to be called in-mail, it's now called messages. And that's the ability to send a certain number, in our case 20, even if they're not first degree connections. If they are first degree connections, you just message them and you don't use any of your credits up. Now, your credits do roll from one month to another, unlike the connections we were talking about earlier on. So you can actually build up a bit of a bank, for example, if you're going to run an event or something. Now, again, this slide would normally build, but I wanted to show you some of the sort of sophisticated search filters that you've got. You've got things like geography, relationships, company, industries, head count, function, job titles, seniority. It's much, much more similar. In fact, it's more detailed than what you can do in the LinkedIn ads. And so once you've created a filter, what happens is the names of the people that actually are in that list will appear here, and you can see the numbers at the top. You can save that list, and then if you click on any of these on the right hand side, you can either save them as a lead, or you can connect to them, view their profile, or message to them. So the obvious thing to do is to try and connect them first. Now, if you're trying to connect to them because you want to send them some information about a webinar or an event, or because you've got something to offer them, then you might as well put that actually in the message that when you connect to them, because at least then they know why you're trying to connect to them in the first place. That gives them a bit of a heads up of what the connection's all about, and then if you they then connect to you, you can then respond to them by going back into LinkedIn and thanking them, and then selling them information on the webinar, for etc. But the main thing is you can go back, you can see the numbers, and it's really brilliant for doing research. So for example, we've been doing research on the number of different people working in different industries in Leicester or a certain geographical region, so we can get an idea of what size of the market is for your particular target market. You can also save the searches. You can save lots of searches, and then you can go back and regain them. But what you tend to find is that reclaim them is that you'll have some new results as well. So you want to view all the results and see all of them, and then you can do various different things with them. This is I'm now viewing all the results, so just sort of repeat what I just said, and this is where I'm going to make my connection. When I actually do my connection request, I'm going to put a message in it, and then I can then follow up with a message once they've connected. Don't waste your messages if you can connect to them first, because as I said, about 25% of them, 30% of them will connect to you. So you're better off focusing on connections first and then messaging afterwards. Okay, posting. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because Caroline covered quite a lot. This is just some examples of some of the things that you can post. You need to make sure that, obviously, if you're posting for social media purposes, that it's not too formal, but it should be clear. It should attract people's attention. So that's why images and videos are so important. And really, have you got something that they're actually going to want to read? Are they going to care about what you're talking about? This is where you actually do the posting. So it's in your main feed on your home page, and you can see you've got some various different options. There's actually a more now. So on the right hand side, you've got some different things that you can create, including things like sharing a profile, creating a poll, even celebrating an occasion. We've also got a certain number of restrictions. So this is what you can do with your post. And again, this is all really for reference later on. And then the other thing you need, which I think most of you will be familiar with, is that you need to use the @ sign and then start typing the business name or the individual, and then pick it from the list, and then it will appear on the right hand side with the actual name, Annika Digital there. And in this case, in this one, I knew Richard, Bob, Rob, Mark, so Ian Bryce. So what Caroline did in this post, some of these slides are from me and some of them from Caroline, is she's included a company there and she's included some individuals there. And that will then appear on their feed as well. You can also use hashtags. Don't overdo this. The main advantage of using hashtags is it appears in bold. You don't have any other way of emphasizing text in a post. So I use it just to sort of highlight the key factors that you want to show. So in this case, we're talking about a webinar here and recruiters there. And this is the new posting function. So Caroline's used this to give kudos to one of our team, Sarah Ross. So she's chosen celebrate an occasion, give kudos, and then this is what it looks like. This is a bit of a checklist on what you need to do with LinkedIn, which you can refer to later. And it's definitely about quality rather than quantity. And another thing I wanted to just add, apart from that, it's an amazing picture of my dad when we were in New Zealand at Christmas. My dad actually got coronavirus really early on, and he's 84. He's now 84. So the fact that he survived was really, quite amazing. So I think this was one of the first posts I've seen about a corona survivor, and you can see I've got a couple of hundred reactions to this, lots of comments. Apart from the fact it's an absolutely brilliant picture. And similarly, I had to celebrate my 60th birthday while we were in lockdown, which is a real travesty. So this was the card that the team sent. So what I've noticed is that LinkedIn has become more like Facebook for business professionals. And the stuff that actually gets engagement is definitely the more personal stuff. So don't be scared of putting personal stuff in there, but just don't push it too far. You don't want pictures of newborn babies. Particularly, although occasionally you do get that, and it still needs to be professional. But if you intermingle maybe one a month on something that's a bit more personal, about the team, then that's going to work really well. Okay, a little bit on engaging and sharing content. Again, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because Caroline covered it last week, and I want to get onto the ads section. But you can see that there's various ways of liking and sharing and commenting. The more that you get of this on your posts, then the more that your stuff is shown and and it reaches a bigger audience. So it's really important that you post stuff that actually gets engagement. If you don't get engagement, next time you're going to get even less. So it's really important that you put stuff that people are interested in. Okay, so I'll come into the final section, which is the promotion section. We are getting towards the end of the presentation now, and also the time of the webinar. We noticed that around 10 o'clock, a lot of people do disappear. So I'm going to quickly go through and explain the process of setting up a LinkedIn ads campaign. Now, it is basically a 6-step process where you select your ads objective. That's what you want to do. You select your audience. You then decide where the ad is going to show. This is things like if it's going to be in your messages or it's going to be in your feed. You then choose your ad format. You then choose your budget and schedule, and then you set up your conversion tracking for things like, form fills, downloads on your main website. So the first thing you need to understand is all the different ad objectives and ad format combinations. So I have played around with this a little bit because it's faster for me to teach it to you. So this is the different ad objectives, and it will be very familiar if you've done any Facebook advertising. So anything that you've already learned on Facebook, you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar that LinkedIn is either already copied or is in the process of copying at the moment. So you can see you can choose different ad objectives based on the different stages of the funnel. We mainly use video views, website conversions, and lead generation. However, it really does depend on what you want. So we will use website visits occasionally, but we tend to use conversions instead because this optimized on the fact that they've actually done something on your website. Lead generation is where you have forms on LinkedIn and they don't need to click through. But video views can be really powerful if combined with some of these others. So you actually then use video as the ad creative, maybe for a website visit or a conversion campaign. So I got this table from the LinkedIn Labs, which is really helpful, and it shows the different combinations. And this is the first time I've seen a table like this. I've created it across different types of paid media, but I've not created it in this format before, so I thought this was really helpful. So these are your different types of ad objectives along here and what you want to achieve, whether it's awareness, consideration, or conversion. So again, different stages of the sales funnel. And these are the different ad formats. Now, what I've done is I've got a few examples to show you in combination. So, for example, website traffic ads. Now, works really well with a carousel because there's more things for them to click on. But what you're really trying to do with this one is get people over to your website. So it's really powerful if you are trying to maybe create a remarketing audience. So you're seeing who's interested in what you're talking about, and you can use a single image ad, carousel, or video ad. And then once they're actually over to the site, you can tag them and remarket to them. You can pay on a cost per click, or effectively a cost per landing page view in this particular case. And we are talking about horrendous costs per click, around the £5 mark. So this is one of the reasons why people tend to be a little bit concerned about this, because it can be expensive. Excuse me. Now, website conversions can be more effective, and the reason why is that you're optimizing on the people that have actually completed a form or a download. So although you pay on a CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions, you are trying to get a target cost per acquisition, and we're trying to get sort of a £50 to £100 cost per acquisition in the UK. Now, this can be a lot cheaper overseas. It depends on the geographical targeting. And we tend to find that if the audience is a little bit bigger, it tends to be a little bit cheaper. This works also very well with a video ad as well, because if you do both, what can happen is you get the video views of the ad, but then you also get the conversions. So that's a good combination that you can also try. Now, video views can be viewed in two ways. You can have an ad objective to get video views, that's people actually watching the video, but they don't then tend to go over to your website. But if you choose traffic or conversion ads, you can actually use the video as the ad type. And that, I think, is the best of both worlds. The video views are really, really cheap. We're talking about less than 10 pence. And because the audiences are so niche in LinkedIn, you might find that the actual cost of the completed view is well below 50 pence, or maybe even a pound at the worst case scenario. So what that means is that you're getting people to watch your video, understand what you'll do, with then the option, if you choose the right ad objective, of clicking through to your site, or even a lead generation form if that's what you prefer. Now, the new announcement this week is that they're now offering remarketing ads based on the people that have viewed your video. Now, this has been available in Facebook for some time. So basically, once somebody's viewed either 25, 50%, 75%, or 97% of the video, you can then put them into a remarketing audience. So that's really powerful, because it allows you to do sort of sequential or two-step campaigns. Lead generation ads are interesting because you actually fill the form in while you're on LinkedIn. Facebook does the same. This is very powerful because it means that if you've got a bit of a rubbish website, or people do not want to leave the platform, then they're filling the form there and then. It automatically fills with the data that you've got in the profile, and you can link it into the CRM system. And now what you really need to do is test the cost per lead versus a website conversion campaign. The reason is that when they click through, if you're trying to get them to download a white paper, you've either got to email them or take them to a thank you page anyway. Whereas you might find that you might get better conversion rates and more automation of the process if you get them over to the website and use a conversion campaign. I know quite a few are having to leave for meetings now, so I do apologise that I've run over a little bit. I'm just going to show you a couple of other ad types. So this is LinkedIn message ads. It used to be called InMail. You can see it in your InMail, and then you click through to the site. Now, the audience is very, very niche, and you've got a couple of different types of audiences that you can create. And this is the same across most of the platforms. You can create a new audience, a custom, it's called matched audience in LinkedIn. And this is based on either the customer data, so that's uploaded lists of either people or company names. You can tag your website using the Insight Pixel from LinkedIn, and then you can see which pages they went to. And then now you can also basically create audiences based on whether they've engaged with your ads, filled in forms, or watched your videos. The other thing you can do is you can create lookalike audiences as well. So if you've already got a list of converters based on one of these other techniques, you can then create some more lookalike audiences. This is the targeting techniques in LinkedIn. It's really extensive. If you look at Facebook, you can do this stuff on the left. but the real discriminating factor is all these company details. So if you want somebody that, you know, an HR manager, and you're selling software, you can find those in Facebook, but you won't be able to distinguish by the size of the company, which you can do in LinkedIn. The other big added advantage is skills. You know, if you're looking for an event manager, their job title might be marketing manager or office manager, but they organize events. So skills is the one that we use the most, and I definitely recommend you look at skills rather than job titles, or in addition to job titles, or combination to job titles. So when you first go into create an audience, this is the screen, the top left, and you've got a choice of creating an audience or a matched audience. So the audience attribution is the new, and this is your first choice. And then I pick some of these up just to show you. So the bottom one is company, and you've got company category connection. So this is all the stuff that was on the diagram just a minute ago. You've got job experience. This is where you find the skills, job function, seniority, job title. You've got interests and traits. So this is things like their membership of groups, their interests. And because the traits is new, this is bringing in LinkedIn data. I've included a little bit more information. So this is frequent contributors, frequent travelers, job seekers, etc. So there's a whole load of those. We can find very niche audiences. This allows us to do some really targeted stuff. So I've got some example audiences on the left hand side. This is all the job titles, whereas if you compare that with LinkedIn, it's nowhere near as sophisticated. And although the audience is smaller, you can see the level of detail that you can go compared with the one on the right. A lot of people are asking about the slides. If you email myself or Jess, if you could put the email addresses in, we'll send them. You will get the videos, and my email is at the end. Also, this is about advertising and creating audiences of your own. So we've already mentioned the way of doing this, but you can see it's got different names and different platforms. And as I said, it's called matched audiences in LinkedIn. This is website targeting. So this is about having your pages tracked using a pixel. And as people arrive on the site, it doesn't matter how they came to the site. You can then use different combination of pages, put them into an audience, and then you can then show them a new ad in LinkedIn or in Facebook. I would recommend that you consider Facebook for this because it's so much cheaper. And obviously, if you've got your LinkedIn pixel and your Facebook pixel on your site, you can pick and choose based on who arrives onto the site. This is our two-stage process. This again looks really, really much easier to understand if you build a slide. But effectively what we do is we use the first stage to filter. So this might be engaging with content or watching a video, and the content could be within the platform or on your website. We get a narrowed down audience, and then we then hit them with a conversion campaign, and then we try and convert them with either a lead generation form or getting them back over to the website. Tracking and data, just a couple of more slides. So this is the insight tag, which you can add to the site. This is demographic data. Now you can get this even if you don't do any advertising. And in a way, I should have shown some of you this earlier. So if you add the LinkedIn's pixel to your site, you can start seeing information about who's coming to your site, company size, job title, really, really useful information. And then if you've got your ads, you can also then see impression views, completed views, clicks, conversions, etc., using the similar in demographic data. Okay, so I think just a little bit on the extra resources. So this is the LinkedIn video that I recommend, which was on YouTube. I thought it was really good. There's a link there, which you can grab later. And then obviously we've got a lot of our own offers. So I'm going to just quickly bring up a couple of the offers. This will allow you to click through. So the first one is free access to our Annika Academy. If you haven't already signed up and you want to get access to all our presentations, if you click the button and request access, you should be able to go and sign up. You'll notice that's now at the top. The other thing I wanted to tell you all about was the course that's coming up in October. This is a 12-day course that's being held actually at Annika's office. We've got a 20% discount on the course. It leads to a DMI and CIM qualification. We're going to be running it in the office, but we're also going to be running it using the webinar software, so that if you can't get to Leicester, you'll still be able to attend either live or watch the recordings later. And then finally, the last slide is just an ad for next week. You will get an email on that. So that's, again, it's me, I'm afraid, guys. You must get fed up with hearing my voice every Friday. But I'm going to be going through the A10 marketing framework, which I invented and developed 2 years ago now, and how you use that to do your market plan. So I know quite a lot of you have had to leave. There are a few questions and answers. I have been noticing that Jess has been answering quite a lot of them. Was there any questions that you couldn't answer, Jess? Are you still there, Jess?
Yeah, I think there was one from Nicola. I'm not sure if she's still here, but she said she wanted to know if you could create target ads, target posts, but non-paid.
What you mean, like you can in Facebook? No, not anymore. I mean, there was something similar to that many years ago, but I don't think you can still do that. So if you create a post, it goes to everybody that you're connected to. I don't think there's a mechanism to narrow down who sees it. The problem at the moment is the reach is so low. You probably want all of them anyway. So you can do that with Facebook, but I don't think you can do that with LinkedIn. If anybody knows differently, if they could let me know, and then I'll send a message around on that. Excellent. I don't think there's any other questions. There was a question in the Q&A, about fake employees, which was really interesting. I suddenly noticed that one of the other agencies had grown from 40 to 100 employees in about a month. And I think it was because loads of people had suddenly linked to them. They'd seen them win an award or something, and then suddenly they'd linked to them. Unless there's any other questions, we'll take our leave. If you found it useful, please give us a review or leave a comment, and share it amongst your friends. And hopefully we'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.